Back in high school, I had some pretty wild experiences in some of my classes. Now, I'm a huge techie and decided to take pretty much all the classes involving computers my school had to offer. One of these classes was a class about the inner workings of computers. The school had just hired a new teacher to teach that class. However, right before school started, us students got wind that our supposed-to-be teacher had retired a week before he was going to start teaching. Who does that? Because of this, the school scrambled to find a new teacher. They couldn't find a teacher in time, so they had an IT specialist who knew a good amount of computer stuff step in and teach temporarily. We'll call him Mr. Airy. Mr. Airy taught us some useful things, but soon had to leave as he wasn't really a teacher and had other tasks he had to attend to. In his place, again temporarily, the school put Mrs. Barry and Mrs. Carey. Mrs. Barry was a student teacher still in college and not much older than us students. Mrs. Carey was older and was another school IT worker. Mrs. Barry was learning to teach at college as well as had some slight background of computers, and Mrs. Carey knew about computers as an IT specialist. They made a pretty good team together, but it wasn't as solid and extensive as a single teacher could be. For the most part, we just did assignments from online textbooks until the school found a new teacher for us a few months later. We'll call this new teacher Mr. Derry. Mr. Derry was a lengthy, middle-aged man who seemed really nice, but didn't seem like what this class was teaching was his strongest area of expertise. Mr. Derry had us working more hands-on with the computers and whatnot, taking them apart and putting them back together. One thing that really sticks out to me in my memories is when we took a test, and then we went over any questions we got wrong on the test in class. One part of the test was to name the ports on a computer. The picture on the test showed a VGA port, which, in case you don't know, is used for outputting video from a computer to the monitor. That's what I put on the test, a VGA port. He marked it wrong when I knew it was right, so I asked about it in class when we were going over the test.
Alright, what question do you guys want to go over next? Yes, Trent.
52?
52, let's see.
I saw that other students were eager to ask about that question as well.
That is a video port.
I put VGA port, that's the specific name of the port. He acted a little flustered and maybe a bit confused and paused for a moment before he said,
it's a video port. That's what the test will want.
My classmates and I just looked at each other as if to say,
This dude doesn't even know what he's teaching.
Anyways, later in the class, we kept getting lab assignments to install the Windows operating systems on the computers. Over and over and over again, we installed Windows 7 and then Windows 10 and then 7 again, all with slightly different methods or reflection questions. I later learned that both his networking class and his computer class were doing the same assignments in class, when both classes were supposed to be learning completely different things. Like, bruh. He also called every cord and cable a Molex cable, which is a specific cable inside the PC. Okay, maybe he didn't call every cable a Molex cable, but he called a lot of cables that definitely weren't a Molex cable a Molex cable. HDMI cable? Molex. DVI cable? Molex. Power cable? Molex. This one time when he was presenting with his computer on a projector, he had some sort of recipe for soup open in another tab. It's not like it's that big of a deal or anything, but my friends and I found it pretty comical how his Chrome tabs were just like, Computer hardware presentation, School district information, Networking outline, Chapter 3. The school eventually let him go when they realized he wasn't really fit for the job. I felt kind of bad for him since he was really trying and I knew he cared about the students, but it just wasn't his area of expertise. Once he left, he became a big meme among us computer students. Students were setting their Windows 10 lock screens to pictures of his face and talking about all the meme-worthy things he did, like calling everything a Molex cable or the soup tab. Anyways, that brings me to our next teacher, Mrs. Ferry. There's quite a few, interesting to say the least, stories from her portion of the class. One that almost ended with everyone dying. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but I'll get to that. She was already a teacher in the school, one of the most tech-savvy ones. Since she was already a teacher, she knew how to teach. However, she didn't know everything about computers, so she would essentially learn the material the day or a couple days before so that she could teach it, which was surprisingly pretty effective. We did more online textbook work as well as hands-on work too. One of the hands-on assignments in the class we did was to build a PC from whatever parts were lying around the room in bins. Now, we had all the parts to do so, motherboard, RAM, processors, etc., with the exception of PC cases. So what did we build it in? What anybody would build it in, a cardboard box. Ah, jeez, yep, no safety hazards here, ladies and gentlemen. You might think it seems kind of okay, but when we're taking into account that we're using probably 20-plus-year-old hardware that's likely to have been damaged through use in transport, you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to realize that a single sparky spark or badly malfunctioning power supply can set the whole damn thing ablaze. Luckily, nobody died per se. I'm just kidding. Somehow no fires were started, but wow was that unsafe. I also set up what I called a meme machine that had a lot of memes on it and would play meme sounds. Here's a video of it. Keep in mind this was back in 2018.
Do you know the way?
He doesn't know the way.
Why'd they close out my taco search bar? I always search for
Somebody
tacos.
touch my spaghetti! Somebody touch my spaghetti!
You need to do it. You need to do it.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
I would run it throughout class as well and play animal memes that people could watch when bored. Mrs. Fairy surprisingly didn't really mind. And that brings me to the last story from this class. The onion incident. I don't think I'll ever forget the onion incident. What is the onion incident, you ask? Well, basically, one of my friends said aloud to the class, if somebody brings an onion in, I'll eat it like an apple. I don't know why he said this, but someone took him up on it. One day, one of our classmates came in with the biggest onion he could find. My friend wasn't one to back out of things, so he took the onion, sat down as class started, and took a chomp out of the onion and began to eat it as you would an apple. Everyone was kinda shocked and amazed. I was sitting right next to him. He continued to eat the onion. If you know anything about onions, you know that they can produce a pretty strong odor. The room was fairly small and began to stink up with pure onion. My friend continued to eat the onion. It was starting to get suffocating to breathe, so my friend stopped eating the onion and bagged it. Someone from the other side of the room started suffocating in the onion scent and pulled out some Axe body spray and sprayed it in class to try to mask out the onion smell. If you know anything about Axe, you know that it's an extremely strong scent as well, often overwhelming. You might think the Axe smell would have won the odor battle against the onion, but they were a pretty even match. As if we weren't suffocating enough before, the Axe body spray now began to invade our nostrils alongside the onion. The room smelled of only Axe and onion. People were tearing up, coughing, and wheezing. I admit I was having a hard time breathing too. The teacher told everyone to open the windows as she propped open the classroom door. We opened the windows, but it was the middle of the winter. All of the warmth from the room began to leave. There we were, a bunch of students just trying to fake working on an assignment. Now subjected to the odors of the almighty onion and Axe body spray, as well as the harsh freezing temperatures of the winter, slowly suffocating and freezing. Yeah, it was wild.